Not you? Okay. That's what I'm doing.
5:58.
Yeah, that clock is. Now it's 5:59, just turned 5:59.
In the hospital.
Oh.
So yeah, we will need a motion and second to excuse her.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, on the 12th of November,
Great.
2024, this will commence the opening of the Buckley City Council meeting. Meeting is called to order. Region of Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, roll call.
Smith,
Here.
Anderson is on Zoom. Arsenault,
Here.
Burbank. Here. Bergerson. Here. Bender, absent. Green.
Here. I entertain a motion to excuse Councilmember Bender in this meeting. Motion to excuse Mr. Bender. Second. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
All opposed.
Motion carries.
Okay, is there any additions, corrections, or deletions to the agenda? No. Okay, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Motion to approve the agenda as presented. Second. All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Okay, then we move down to the next thing I see, well, actually, Mr. Mayor is here. And I'll pass it off to him. Direct public.
I don't look at the sheet.
Okay, does anybody have public comment?
I don't know.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, oh, here, you want to?
Good evening, Mayor and Council, Carolyn Harding here on behalf of the Buckley Chambers. On behalf of our newest chamber member, McDonald's of Buckley. I wanted to come on their behalf. I've been speaking with Ms. Francine back and forth numerous times over the last several days. They have now joined the chamber officially and, they wanted us to know a few things and I told them I would come on their behalf and make the personal invitation. She had requested that mayor and council be invited to their, grand opening. Soft opening was Monday afternoon, and then they are now officially open. She said a couple of things. She wanted you to know that on December 7th, between 11 and 2, they will be having their grand opening, and they are hoping that mayor and council would be able to attend. She has contacted Waukesha High School and she's invited the marching band. So she's working with them to try to coordinate that, which is why I think that she moved it from the Friday she had originally planned to a Saturday so that she could maybe have it. She said, well, I'm really hoping that it's not raining or cold. And I said, well, I said, these are a marching band who participate at football games. They're used to getting cold and wet, so don't worry about us. So she also wanted us to know that, they did hold a job fair at the public library a couple weeks ago. They had 25 people show up. They were very excited about that. And she said everybody that they have hired so far has been great. She also said that they now have 40 employees and they would like to hire more. So if anyone knows anyone who would like to be a McDonald's employee, as I was, and Derek Robinson was, our brother David was, our son Isaac was, that would be great. They would love to have them. And I think that's all she said to me. Yes. But yes, they are super excited to be here and they're really looking forward to being a part of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. A little hard today. That's wrong. Well, to piggyback on what the kind lady said, I was a proud McDonald's employee in 1981, 82. Unlike somebody who currently ran for office who claimed to be a McDonald's employee and was not. There's nothing wrong with McDonald's. And the fact that we have 40 jobs and they want to have more is great for the community. Absolutely great.
Okay, anybody else? Mark, you think, okay, right? Any other? Comment? Go on. Okay.
Yep, one right here.
Oh, Brandon, sorry.
Just want to wish a belated happy birthday to the United States Marine Corps. On Sunday was the 249th birthday. Happy birthday, Mark.
Very good.
And a happy Veterans Day to the rest of them.
Yep. Yeah, big doings next year for 250, you know?
Oh, yeah, it's always a big doings. This day one.
Yep, okay, let's see. Planning Commission.
I was asking.
Okay. That's right. Okay. LTAC.
Okay. So we got applications this year. We got 8 applications and we met on October 29th we had a couple of presentations from a couple of the merchants that were requesting funds. And so I made a list of the applicants and what they were asking for. And so it's the recommendation of the LTAC for council to approve $125,868 of the funds that were requested. So we are open to questions. If you have any questions on what everyone would like to do with these funds.
Questions or comments?
We talked about this at the study session last week a little bit, and I know that some of you weren't able to make the study session.
Still can't wrap my head around geofencing.
Yeah, what is geofence? What?
Geofencing. I'm going to turn this over to our
Okay.
city administrator because she understands it better than I. I
Okay.
have this much
Okay.
knowledge of it.
So when you have targeted advertisements, anytime you open your social media app or when you go to a Google post and you see on the top, it says sponsored ads.
Yeah.
Those are oftentimes geofencing. So when you're at a local location and you open up your app, it's based off of your location is what ads you see displayed. So what they do is they'll pick event venues. These third-party companies, the one that the Expo Center uses is called Genesis. They'll pick event venues like Key Arena or the stadiums and say anytime that there is somebody opening an app in that radius, we want them to see a sponsored ad for the Expo Center. So right now, all of their targeted geofencing is in King County or North. And what they're proposing is to start doing some of the targeted advertising in the southwest,
It's
southwest region.
Okay.
So in theory, individuals who receive the advertising would need to travel through the city of Buckley in order to access the Expo Center. So they're going to put their geofence around, let's say, the Tacoma Dome. So when you open your app and you see a sponsored ad, it would be one of their events. What the LTAC committee had requested is that they try to package their advertising for events to also include local city of Buckley events. I think the committee had requested at least 3 instances of
Mm.
that.
Okay.
So if we're having, the Little Nashville, for example, and they have another event going on, trying to advertise both of those events.
Okay.
So, but that's what geofencing is. It's
Right.
targeted advertisement based off of a specific location rather than on Google. Sometimes you can just pay for promotional ads for company types. So if you were to Google a certain type of company, it would say promo ad at the top. Geofencing is location based.
Got it.
Currently, they already share our hotel information, especially for the dog show, which lasts for 10 days.
Okay.
Because our hotel here is pet friendly. So, they are currently trying to get people to come to Buckley to use our accommodations. So, with that, decided to put this in.
Is the geofencing, does it, not only with the location, does it recommend a house?
Mm-mm.
They're in at a certain place instead of going through Auburn, they would come through Buckeye.
No, it would be if you turned on YouTube and the targeted ad that came in between videos, it would just be for an event. So they'll give them a set date, is video or graphic to display for the event. And then in theory, I mean, if they were to say directions to, Google Maps would take them through Buckley, but it doesn't have anything to do with routes. It's just, they're making an assumption based off of where people are located for events where they'll be traveling from in order to get to the location, which would be the Expo Center.
They didn't come from the south, if you come for 10 or go on up, the 18 coming out.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Denise? So everybody see the recommendation that Mackenzie, do you have anything?
She hasn't raised her hand to speak, and we seem to be getting an echo again when I turn the speaker on.
Okay. All right, thank you, Denise. Council member comments, you gotta be ordered. Anything, have anything tonight? Okay. All right, we'll move into the consent agenda.
On tonight's consent agenda is claims and payroll.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay.
Mhm.
All right, regular agenda, public hearing, you're coming to suspend the council meeting.
And open the public hearing. Yep.
Suspend the council meeting. Okay, it is 6:12 PM and we're gonna suspend the council meeting and go into the 2025-2026 preliminary budget public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This is the second of our 3 required public hearings. The first one comes on revenue and property tax. This one is on the preliminary budget. As was presented to council and that was discussed at the study session last week. So this is a short presentation.
Sandy, I don't think your microphone's on.
Is it on?
Well, it said it was on, but now it's lit up. Okay, is that better?
I don't know. The rest of them, so,
You wanna just take one of the floor?
yeah, you can just grab it, please.
Now, am I on?
I don't know.
No, it's on. Here, give me pass it.
This?
Mhm.
Okay,
I just have your speaker.
we'll go.
I have to exit out of your screen to see, so.
Second, public hearing. So the top goals as adopted by council that we try to follow as part of presenting the budget and financially sustainable. Improve on 410, revitalize Main Street, public safety, and preserve Boston activity. Those are all the reminders. Budget. Some of the key projects for 25 and 26, will be to complete our research, and purchase and implement a new finance software system. We talked about that with council, so that is still in the works. Publish online dashboards with performance measurements. Update our development codes to align with the plan updates that are in process. Begin work on the Miller Park project. Update the city personnel policies and procedures. We've been working on those and have provided some to council already.
Third time's a charm. Yay, okay. Adopt a climate change chapter for the comprehensive plan. That sounds much better. And complete the City Hall addition and modernization project, the CHAMP project. It's moving along nicely. So for the 25-26 budget, this is our first biennial budget. So we are preparing a 2-year budget. The staff we have developed 2 annual budgets that will get adopted as a biennial budget. So the biennial budget in total will be for 57,225,723. So that includes both the fund balances as well as then revenues and expenses. And then you can just see a small pie chart there that breaks it out. The utilities, including operating and capital overall, take up 35% of the total city budget, with the general fund being second at 29%. And then third comes in at the special revenue funds, which would include the visitor promotion fund, the EMS fund, the street operating and street capital funds. Those make up the special revenue funds. And then the other general funds make up about 13%. That includes the cumulative reserve and the other general funds. Small on there, hopefully council can see it on the handout. This just provides the total fund balance beginning going into 2025 is about 16.4 million for all funds. Total revenue for the 2 years is 40,804,000, with our total expenditures at 44.9 million. So our total expenditures do exceed our total revenue, but that is planned and intentional, as many capital projects are having but fund balance carryover, kind of like the CHAMP project for City Hall. It won't be completed this year, and so budget will carry over. And so purposely drawing those down to complete those projects. So we'll end 2026, 2 years, with an ending fund balance of about 12.3 million. Looking at the general fund, the 2 years revenue is just over 16 million. About 7.9 million in 25 and 8.1 million in 26. Some of the biggest increases between the years is in licenses and permits. We're estimating a large amount of building permits, about 110 in 2025 and 120 in 2026. That is a conservative estimate. There's a chance that we'll receive even more than that, but we wanted to be on the conservative side with what the projects were in the pipeline. And then transfers is another area of growth that includes the indirect cost allocation. So the other departments and funds paying the general fund for the support of all the indirect services, city attorneys, finance, city administrator, and personnel, and HR and IT. So about between 24 to 25, it's about a 9.5% increase in revenue. And then from 25 to 26, another 2.5% increase. Sales tax is kind of holding flat. We do anticipate some growth due to the construction and new businesses opening up, but having a conservative estimate at this point, since in 24, we came in actually under budget. So we kind of made 25 kind of based off of the 24 year-end estimate being under budget. 25 is somewhat equal to 24, but that does include growth over the 24 year-end estimate. General fund operations, all of our public safety, police and fire, out other than EMS is included in the general fund, our court, the contracts for jail and animal control, parks maintenance. We are proposing to close out the railroad right-of-way fund as part of this budget going forward. Previously, 30% of the parks maintenance was funded in there. The revenue source for that fund had previously been rent from properties that the city owned and then rented out. We are down to one property in that fund, and so it's not sustainable. We're just moving all the parks maintenance costs back to the general fund along with that one rental property income, and then closing that fund out. Youth and senior center activities, planning and building services, facilities maintenance, and then all of the internal support services, administration, finance, HR, and IT. For general fund expenditures, about 7.8 million for 25, which is about a 6% increase over the 24 budget, and then 8.2 million in 26, which is about a 4.7% increase over 25. So this includes personnel changes for closed contracts such as the police, a estimate for open contracts for the local 302 and COLAs for non-represented staff, along with increases for contracts such as jail and all of our planning and building and engineering service contracts. So sticking in line with including the personnel and then just supplies and services. So about a 6%. Medical increases for personnel also based on AWC's rates. L&I rates went up significantly for 2025. Just the base alone increased 15% for police and fire. And then claims experience on top of that increased it additional. And so that was a significant increase that we hadn't hoped for, but we are experiencing. Just a pie chart showing how then the distribution of the expenditures in the general fund, public safety, both police and fire make up about 42% of the total general fund budget. Planning and building at 8.9%. Finance and all the administration type areas is almost 15%. And then we have community services, which is building and planning at 5.8, or sorry, parks and recreation, which is community services at 5.8. Parks maintenance at 4.7, and then some of the smaller ones, judicial, executive, and legislative. And IT is about 7.8, which is a little larger than we have seen in the past, but that's because we've been moving all of the software subscriptions over to IT. So that's included in that. So we did have some changes since we presented the preliminary budget to the council. So I wanted to go over just a couple of those for tonight that we would plan to fold into the final adoption. The first one is on your capital list in your budget. There was 2 vehicles proposed in the Fund 430 equipment reserve that were kind of listed as tentative and had needed some additional research prior to us including them. So the street sweeper is still listed as tentative. We're still on contract for that and want to see how that goes. But the city is in need of a new Vector truck. So that is going to be added into the Fund 430 as an expense at 700,000. And that would be funded by stormwater and sewer at 40% each, and then water at 20%. So those will come from the construction funds, which is the capital funds, capital funding for that piece of equipment. The second one is looking at updating the general facilities charges for the 3 capital funds for utilities, water, sewer, and stormwater. I had an initial estimate in there for the preliminary budget that was somewhat close to the 25-26 budget and year budget and year-end estimates. After speaking with Director Banks and looking at how that relates to the development coming in, again, of those 110 and 120 expected building permits and the current GFC charges, we're upping those revenue estimates. So for sewer construction, 285 and 343,000. For water construction, about 217,000 for 25 and another additional 282,000. And then in surface water, significant increase over what the current budget is. So an additional 715,000 and 816,000 for those. So those just hadn't quite gotten vetted all the way out and flushed out of what those should be when we did the preliminary. So we followed up and want to update the revenue estimates for that, which is good. The capital funds have fund balance, but capital projects are expensive and significant. So that additional revenue will help build some reserves up for the capital funds for future projects and helps pay for the Vector truck. The last changes that we'll make to the preliminary budget, the the transfer from the stormwater operating fund to the stormwater construction fund is getting increased to make sure it matches up to the Buckley Municipal Code, which calls for a 20% transfer of what the stormwater revenue is. So just right sizing that. We had made some last minute edits to the stormwater revenue estimates, and then conversely, the transfers from the operating fund to the capital fund just didn't keep up with those. So just making sure that now we're truly at 20% of the stormwater revenue into the capital fund. In 2026, there was a large stormwater project in 408, the Natchez Street biofilter. It's about 1.2 million in 2026. That is expected to hopefully get a Department of Ecology grant to fund it at half, 50%. So the 600,000 is getting added into the revenue for 2026, and that fund wasn't previously in there for the preliminary budget. If we did not receive that grant from the Department of Ecology, that project could be delayed, as 1.2 million would just be a little bit more than the city would want to spend right now. We would probably search for some additional avenues of revenue in the future, or phase the project in more. And then just removing a project in 2026, the stormwater trunk line Collins Road to Packard Street. It's about 180,000. Just looking at the priority for the projects and the funding that we have, just moving that project probably to a future year. So taking it out of 2026. So those are the changes that we're proposing that you would see in your materials when time for budget adoption would come. If I have any questions on those, I'd be happy to answer any questions related to those. The next steps for the budget tonight is the second public hearing. Council can have discussion time for the budget. If council would like additional discussion time or have questions, next week was set aside as a special study session if needed. November 26th, the last council meeting for this month, we would be then bringing forward the property tax and EMS levy ordinances. Those would be, even if council wanted to not adopt on the 26th, we would still need to adopt the EMS levy ordinances, as we're required to submit our levy certification paperwork to the county by November 30th. So that's the last opportunity to pass those ordinances. We would hold the final public hearing on the budget, have an ordinance ready for council for adoption if council chooses to do so. And we would also bring forward the 2025 salary scale ordinance. That night, we will bring another ordinance forward at the mid-biennial for the 26th, once we would know personnel and salary adjustments. So we would just be doing the 2025 salary ordinance on the 26th. And then if the council chooses not to adopt on the 26th, we could adopt on the December 10th meeting, if there was additional time needed. And that's all I have. If you have any questions, happy to answer those before public comment.
Have questions? Comment, concern? Please.
As far as the LTAC.
Yes, so LTAC as the recommendations that were presented last week to council. And we could go over those if members that weren't there last week, we could go over those quickly if we wanted to. But that would be, it is incorporated into the line items of the budget as the LTAC recommended. And so if council accepted the LTAC's recommendation, then the approval for those would be as part of the budget adoption. If council would like to make changes to what the LTAC recommendations are, then those changes would need to go back. The LTAC would have to have another meeting, accept or, change what the council recommendation was and bring another recommendation back to council. So
it could be rolled into approving the budget.
yes, it would be rolled instead of a separate. We did the 24 funding as a separate because it was off cycle from the budget. But this would be the normal time each year, is that the recommendations from the LTAC would get approved as part of the adoption of the budget. And I do have the short presentation that I did to the council at the study session last week of the LTAC recommendations available if the rest of the council would want to see that or go through that again.
Any questions on the LTAC or on the budget for 25 and 26? Any top members before we open it up?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we're gonna have public comment period for the budget for 2025 and 2026. Anybody in the audience would like to comment? For the county councilman, since he joined us. Dave?
I got my own problems.
All right. Good. Okay. All right, give it, I guess, it looks like we don't have any comments. Anybody online, Trina?
No, that wants to speak.
Okay, I guess it is 6:30. We will close the public hearing and reconvene the council meeting at 6:30 p.m. And start into new business with interlocal agreement.
On tonight's agenda is an interlocal agreement with the town of Wilkeson for fire and emergency medical services.
Move to approve the interlocal agreement between the city of Buckley and town of Wilson for providing fire and emergency medical services. Second.
Chief Scobie is here. The questions, comments, concerns?
It's the same. It includes a 3% increase. Yes.
Did you have anything you wanted to go out there?
No, just as a reminder for council, the town of Wilkeson doesn't operate their own municipal fire department. They contract with the city of Buckley and the town of Carbonado for that services. The next agenda item I'll speak, which is a little bit different with the town of Carbonado.
Okay, no roll call. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is an interlocal agreement with the town of Carbonado for fire and E EMS.
Move to approve the interlocal agreement between the city of Buckley and town of Carbonado for providing fire and EMS. Second.
Go ahead.
Okay, this one also is just an addendum to the original agreement that includes a 3% increase for the year 2025. Our agreement with Carbonado is slightly different. Their town does have a municipal fire department. They contract with the city of Buckley for administrative services, which means I get to be the Carbonado fire chief as well and manage that department as a separate entity. But our agreement does allow us to share personnel and equipment between the communities.
Okay, any questions, comments for chief? Concerns? Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Just a comment, I hope everybody, council members all have a pulse point on their device. And, being a retired first responder, I like, living here and being on council, I can see what's going on. And you can actually see all the calls for service, and you can see, and you can, when you look at this, you'll see that they're in Wilkeson, they're in Carbonado, they're here in Buckley, and then mutual aid out to down Bonnie Lake County, Mr. Mountain. And so all these things make perfect sense when she comes forward with proposals and contracts and whatnot to see. It's live, you can see it. And I think it expires like every 24 hours, it refreshes with different calls, but you can see where they're at. And there's a lot of calls for service in Wilkeson, Carbonado County mutual aid.
Okay, thanks, Ron. Anybody else? Questions, comments for chief? Do we run on the mill stuff? Okay. Nothing from McKenzie? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of the 2025 legislative priorities.
To adopt the city of Buckley 2025 legislative priorities. Second.
Taylor, do you know it's available for questions, comments, and concerns?
We have reviewed this a couple of times, because when we changed since the last review was under the public review section, I did include the
CIM about, increased training for fire services related to EV. There is a Scrivener's error
Yeah,
here,
that's-
it's also correct, it should be
Has.
created a heat found for the fire.
Kind of like
service.
that.
So we will correct that, but otherwise, no other changes from the last week.
Okay, and I think we had one, you already made the change that Brandon recommended on the language.
Related to the comprehensive
Yeah.
plan, yep, that's separate and
Okay.
not included in the legislative agenda, so that has been changed.
Okay. All right. Anybody have questions, comments, concerns on legislative agenda that we're working with other local neighbors on? Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Motion carries.
All right, staff reports. You stay through now, you have anything?
Just related to the comprehensive plan update, I wanted to give council another opportunity after having a bit more time to review it, if you have any additional corrections to make. Our last meeting, Councilmember Green did identify an issue on page 32. That change has already been incorporated into the revised document, so we did present everything for that one change. Otherwise, we haven't made any other edits. Our city engineer, Don Miller with Diana Osborne, is continuing to make some refinements to the transportation section. So before we move forward for adoption, you'll have one more chance to review. And then we should have an ordinance before you can consider adoption at the same meeting as the budget, November 27th, as well as on December 10th, the additional time. We are required to have our comprehensive plan adopted by the end of this year, so we could go further into December if you did review the comp plan. But if you have any areas that you're concerned with or changes, I just want to encourage you to come and let me know as soon as possible. Or share with the council.
All right. What do you want to say anything? We're getting into public comment here. I just, have you jump in there if you'd like?
I'm good, I just wanted to see how a well-oiled council works. Because we're moving along pretty good.
Thank you, sir. Okay, public comment time. Anybody? Time limit of 30 minutes. Anybody like to speak? Right, that I'll entertain the motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All, oh,
We'll also have a special study session. Next day, we'll review budget or do we need additional?
Say, it didn't sound like it, but maybe.
anything else?
No. I think we're good.
Don't need, yeah.
All
Okay.
opposed?
Motion carries.